smartphone or smart TV. You can also watch online at mymytv.com.
Hi, I'm Tyler Keefe, host of the Michigan Megacast, Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to noon. Join me as I talk about Michigan's top news stories with experts and leaders from across the state, covering everything including businesses, events, hot topics, and yes, even politics. Watch on our smart TV and smartphone apps and on the web on mymytv.com. It's the Michigan Megacast, weekdays 11 a.m. to noon right here on My.
My Michigan TV, My. This is My Michigan TV, a unique news streaming television network. To watch, simply add our app to your smartphone or smart TV. You can also watch online at mymytv.com. My Michigan TV, My.
Get ready for The Splash Live, Greater West Bloomfield's dedicated update show. Events, businesses, and people. Anything and anyone causing a ripple in the community. And now, let's dive in to The Splash Live.
Good morning and welcome to The Splash Live. I'm Ursula Krause. Thank you to everyone from West Bloomfield, Kego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, and Orchard Lake for tuning in on this wonderful Wednesday morning. The Splash Live is Greater West Bloomfield's very own daily TV and radio streaming show. Always watch us live Monday through Friday from 9:30 to 10 a.m. on Civic Center TV. Catch us on Comcast Channel 15, AT&T Channel 99, on the web at civiccentertv.com, on Civic Center TV's Facebook app, and you can even listen live on 89.3 Lakes FM. The Splash Live is part of Civic Center TV and Lakes FM's 90 minutes of live local programming. We can expect a fairly enjoyable day today as temperatures are expected to rise to the upper 80s and the sun will be shining during the morning hours. Later this afternoon, we can expect the humidity to pick up and a couple thunderstorms might sweep through the area. Tonight will be a little chilly with the temperature in the low 50s and some rain showers. Tomorrow is the first day of fall, and the weather will definitely know it. Temperatures during the day will sit at a brisk 60 degrees with possible rain showers scattered throughout the day. We can expect a clear but cool evening into tomorrow night with temperatures in the mid-40s. This weekend will warm up a little bit with sunshine and temperatures hanging out in the upper 60s. The end of September is creeping up on us, and we can look forward to October as Polish Heritage Month. Stop by Art on the Lake, the first annual fine art show and sale headed by the Polish Institute of Culture and Research. The event is October 1st and 2nd from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Orchard Lake Schools, which is located at 3535 Commerce Road in Orchard Lake. In addition, the Orchard Lake St. Mary's Moms and Dads Clubs will be sponsoring a Polish Harvest Festival on that Saturday, October 1st. Guests can expect tons of Polish food, drinks, music, and dancing. Advanced tickets are required for admission, and you can visit orchardlakeschools.com for more information. In November, voters will be asked to consider a 10-year .95 mil measure to maintain public transit services that will fund to key areas such as major employment centers, healthcare campuses, and colleges and universities. This millage will also expand flexible transportation for seniors, people with disabilities, and veterans who need to make essential trips. The funds from this millage will support transit services that are specific to Oakland County and its residents. Advertising company Brogan & Partners holds a campaign to acknowledge teachers for their hard work. The Brogan Gives Thanks to Teachers campaign recognizes Cindy Carson of West Bloomfield Middle School as September's Teacher of the Month. A huge congratulations to Cindy. With the COVID-19 pandemic creating difficult times for schools and their students, Oakland County has released that it is committed to investing money to address mental health issues and the lost education due to the pandemic. According to WDET, officials have designated about $47 million to help the county's students. Pontiac School District Superintendent Kelly Williams says the pandemic made it difficult to reach students and their needs. $10 million has also been distributed for mental health officials, but a national shortage could slow that effort down. It is almost time for the Friday night lights, and our West Bloomfield Lakers are ready. Join us on Friday at 7 p.m. to watch the Lakers take on the Highlanders at Rochester Adams High School. Can't make the game? As always, watch it live on civiccentertv.com and WBTV, and join us live at 89.3 Lakes FM for all your Laker updates throughout the game. Our very own Tyler Kieft had the chance to talk to Coach Grice once again on This Week in Laker Football to review the key factors of last week's win against Clarkston. Let's see what Coach has to say.
Hello and welcome to This Week in Laker Football. I'm Tyler Kieft, joined by head coach Tyrese Grice of the West Bloomfield Lakers. Coach Grice, coming off an impressive win at home against your rivals, the Clarkston Wolves, on family fun night, and 35-27 was the final score. But West Bloomfield definitely was in the driver's seat for the majority of this game in all three phases. You, at the end of the game in particular, you were talking to your team about continuing to bring the energy throughout the entire performance. They got up in the comfortable lead against a really talented team, 28-14 lead about a few minutes into the third quarter. And then all of a sudden you look at the scoreboard a few minutes later, it's going to in the fourth quarter, and it is a 35-27 game. For your team, as you're talking to your guys about keeping the foot on the gas, what do you think changed in that second half to where your team maybe wasn't entirely playing to that full effort to maintain that comfortable lead against the Wolves?
Well, in the first half, let's talk about the first half before we go into that. I think number 34, the running back, had over 120 yards rushing in the first half. So at halftime, we really got into our players and we were missing tackles, out of alignment. So we basically wasn't going to make any adjustments at the end of the day. Do what the game plan calls for. So that second half, he had negative 2 yards. So that's a positive thing in terms of what we did against the run. What we did give up in the second half, when it was at one point, it was actually 35-14. And we gave up some big plays, 4th and 10. They made a play that really hurt us. And then they got us on a trick play where they gained about 25 yards on a double reverse pass. So that got us out of those plays, got them in position. So as long as we cut down our mistakes and cut down our penalties and cut down our mental mistakes and make tackles, we knew it was going to be successful. But the drive at the end of the day, where we knew it was 3 minutes left in the game, it was important that we control the clock. We milk as much clock as possible. And at one point we called a timeout, and we just went to the player and said, hey, we're going to win on this drive or we're going to lose on this drive. It's up to you. So it's a matter of just pounding the ball. We're just going to give it to our running back and just keep moving that. And we just picking up a lot of positive yards. As long as we get positive yards and keep moving that clock and get first down out of it, we felt that we can win this game and close it out.
In terms of game plan, we spoke last week before this game about obviously the impact that a guy like Ethan Clark has on a defensive game plan for you and on his team on the offensive side of the ball, but also the impact of a guy like Mike Hine. Of course, Mike didn't play in this game. He was out for last week. And so the backup quarterback, Cossack, was the main ball handler at the quarterback position. For you and your team, knowing at any point before that game that their starting quarterback is not going to play, that obviously it's going to add a different wrinkle to their offense and therefore your defense. So what did change when you got that news in terms of your game plan or your approach to Clarkston?
Well, we didn't change anything. One thing we know about Clarkston, it's a system. Their players work within a system, and the quarterback didn't change how they do things versus the first starter or first string or the second string. Didn't change how we felt, because you guys still has to account for that player. And in fact, he kind of hurt us a few times throughout the game in his running ability. So we knew, but at the end of the day, our whole game plan was we got to stop Ethan Clark. No one else really matters, but 80% to 90% of the plays go through him. So we were able to do that in the second half. The first half, he was able to pick up some plays and we was able to contain him. But in the second half, he was only able to get negative 2 yards offense in that second half rushing. And we got hurt on the big plays in the second half.
And you mentioned shutting them down much more effectively in the second half, and the impact that can have on an offense like Clarkston as they're trying at that point to get the receiving game more involved. And that's not an easy task, shutting that down either, with talent like Desmond Stevens, Cole Jarvis playing in that game as well. And they've had big weeks over the last few weeks. Shutting down that defensive front, that offensive front on the wide receiver core in particular, is that more about that pressure you were able to put on Cossack in the backfield, or more about just the great coverage that you've had from your defensive backs all throughout the season?
It's a combination of both. Every time he threw the ball, I like to roll out, we had somebody in his face. So when you got a quarterback rolling out and you got a player in their face, he can only read one side of the ball, one angle of the ball. So as long as that guy is covered, so that's a combination of the both. So we was able to put a lot of pressure on him, and that helped. And we knew he was a young quarterback. We knew he was a backup quarterback, but he did hurt us as well. So he got the ball off on a 4th and 10, and they have like a 6'6" tight end, and we had a short guy, and he was able to jump over it. We take that play up. We stop that play, change the whole entire momentum of they come back.
On the offensive side of the ball, we saw, much like we've seen develop over the last couple of weeks, getting more of the players involved in making plays and getting targets kind of spread out throughout the immense talent that you have on the offensive side of the ball. How has that added a new wrinkle to your offense, or at least added a benefit to, what benefit has that added to your offense to be able to have these plays designed for so many different guys? And if a play falls apart, you got secondary and tertiary options down the line to then get the ball to and still be highly effective.
Well, we have a lot of talent on this team, and these guys want the ball. So you try to spread the wealth as much as you can without losing sight of, at the end of the day, it's a team sport. But each week is maybe a different person. Last week it was Kenneth Jones running the ball. Before that it was Dre Hill with 2 touchdowns, and you're always going to see Samaj Morgan making plays. But those guys are the guys that people may not see. They look at Samaj, but we have other weapons in terms of getting the ball to them. So if you stop one player, then you have to go after another. So that just helps. Having a player like Samaj opens the doors for the rest of the receivers.
It helps too to have such versatility on that offense too from all those players. You're able to have Samaj, who is a former quarterback, come in and throw for a touchdown. You have Kenneth Jones operating on the Wildcat and being highly effective, including on a 2-point conversion. And you have guys like Brody Picourt, your backup quarterback, is regularly playing at tight end and fullback. Speak to the importance of that versatility, position to position, but also player to player, and what that allows for your offense to do to be even more potent on the gridiron every week.
Well, we try to take what a particular player do well and try to exploit that into our advantage in terms of making sure that we run the right play, get it to the right person who can, like some players may want a better wheel route than a go route. Well, let's make sure that player, is he good at that? Let's try to get him in that position to get the ball to him in a wheel route. So that's one of the things we try to do offensively, is just try to spread the love, spread the wealth. And if you don't, we're gonna have some calls from parents and friends, and hey, why this guy didn't get the ball enough? So we just try to stay within the system and take what the defense provides us and try to exploit the weaknesses. So we do move guys around. We may put Samaj in the backfield, let them roll out, create a mismatch on the linebacker. So in that particular case, but it's very important that we keep the defense off balance in terms of our game, because you try to stop the running game, you got Rick in the passing game, you try to stop the jet, we got the power read. So there's a lot of things that we can do offensively that we can exploit. We just haven't yet put it all together yet, and when we do, that's when you're gonna have something special.
And it all comes back down to that offensive line continuing to be as stellar as it has been all season long. There were several times where Dave would be making the call, and the first thing I'm thinking about for my color commentary is Rick's got all the time in the world here to make a decision. And as things are breaking down, these guys are athletic enough. That offensive line's giving this offense second, third, and fourth chances to make plays.
The offensive line is the got to be the backbone of your team, particularly on the offensive side. We have great guys on that side of the ball. We got Mir Herring committed to Michigan, and we try to run behind him. And once he get his hands on you, he's going to drive you. He loves to finish, and that's the strength of Amir, is that he's finished, and his blocks can be very deadly to some of these players out here. So it's very important that we try to establish that running game, because we got some guys up front that can move the ball.
Well, Coach, we'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk to a couple of players. And we'll preview another big game, this time on the road, heading back to Rochester to go up against Rochester Adams. We'll give a thank you to our sponsors that sponsor, of course, this week in Laker football and all of our Laker football broadcasts, the Orchard Mall, Premier Pet Supply, as well as our friends at the Greater West Bloomfield Cable Communications Commission, the Michigan Week Committee, and, of course, Deb and Ken Macon sponsoring each and every one of our broadcasts. We'll take a break. We'll come back. A couple of players on the defensive side of the ball coming up. Big week for defense here in West Bloomfield. And then we'll preview the game against Rochester Adams. You're watching and listening to This Week in Laker Football.
Don't forget to tune in this weekend at Civic Center TV. You can watch the game live. It starts at 7 o'clock, and it's at Rochester Adams. We hope to see you there. Connecting with others is such a crucial part of how our civilization works, especially in the workforce. Suzanne Levine is joining us today to talk about how we can connect with others, what groups to join, and what employers can do to keep their employees. Thank you so much for joining us again, Suzanne.
Thank you for having me. Hope you're having a good week so far.
So far, so good. I hope you as well.
Yes, other than the storms, absolutely, and power outages, but it is Michigan after all.
Yep, can't catch a break with all that. So
No.
what would you say is the biggest thing a business should be doing to connect with potential employers?
I think one of the things that they should be doing is making sure that they do whatever they can to kind of instill this team spirit. We know that if you have employees that are unhappy, we know that whole quiet quitting trend. But I think the other problem that managers and employers have is not giving credit where credit is due. You're not going to instill a team spirit or get your employees to want to give 100% if you're constantly telling them that they're not doing a good job, or pointing out all their flaws. There are ways to do some team building and making sure that they get the credit they deserve. While on the other hand, I know that, perhaps there is an employee that is slacking off. And how do you get them to want to give 100%, finding out what their issues are, playing to their strengths. Sometimes we know that employees, kind of fight for credit. They want, the bosses to recognize them, but it's also on the bosses and the managers to make sure that they recognize when an employee does above and beyond. It's not just their job that they're doing. They're really trying to make an effort. As a customer, it's really important not just to criticize, but make sure that a manager knows when an employee, whether it's in a restaurant or in a store, has gone above and beyond and making sure that they notice this. But what do they say? They say people don't quit a job, they quit a boss. And especially today, when there's competition for employees, I think it's really important that managers have some training too, not just employees, on how to be a good manager. I just heard about a large company where there was like wholesale opting for getting out of their, getting bonus packages and leaving because of a very bad manager. So this is a trend. And I think the olden days, it was called the Halden method, of where they took a resident in a surgical program and just beat them to death. They would have like 80-hour days and no sleep, hoping to create a good surgeon. That doesn't even make any sense. How can you make good decisions if you're being screamed at, yelled at, and you get no sleep? So, certainly today with all this competition, it is really important that managers understand what it takes to build teamwork, and also for people that have a job that enjoy it, how to work with their teammates, playing to their strengths. And instead of saying, I can't do something, saying, I will try, changing your verbiage so it doesn't seem like you're always negative.
Definitely. So if I was looking for a place to work or a business to invest in, how would I look for a group that might be the most beneficial for me?
I think it's important that you ask questions in the interview, not just the employer asking you the questions, but you also asking, what do you do to, make employees feel welcome? What do you do if you can't pay them as far as either bonuses or perks? Maybe it's an extra day off. Maybe it's, 50% off merchandise. Maybe it's a free meal. Maybe it's having their family come there. So there's different ways that employers can show employees that they appreciate them. And on the other hand, there's other ways that employees can show that they're happy in their jobs and how they can go, above and beyond. So it's teamwork. And really, what do they say? There isn't an I in teamwork. We need to work together, but I can't impress on employers enough that when you scream and yell and point out to your employees all the things they're doing right, you're not going to get 100% out of them. The employees are going to take advantage one way or the other. And if nothing else, they're going to quit. And so having to retrain employees for a job is very it costs a job, a business a lot of money to keep having to retrain people for the same job. So a manager should look at themselves and say, why are people leaving? What am I doing to foster this kind of environment?
Yeah. So is in your position in the Chamber of Commerce, what different types of groups have you seen in these different businesses?
Well, I think, the most successful businesses is where people feel welcome when they walk in the door. And so I try to strategize with them. I think we talked a little bit about people now, employers have to look outside of the traditional employee pool, looking to some of the seniors that want to work, that maybe they're retired, but they just want to, they're bored. So maybe they only want to work two days a week. And they're great employees because they don't need the health benefits. They don't need the 401k benefits. They're just happy to be out there, and they can also mentor younger employees about, how to be loyal, how to take criticism, and how to speak up when they feel that they're being mistreated without, giving the business a bad name. And I know that even within our chamber, we have all kinds of specialty groups. We have our Women's Inspiration Network. So this is where women can get together, and not only get a great speaker who can talk about leadership or how to sustain employees, but also talk about some of the issues that they have found in the workplace, where I know that women are starting to find their voice, especially women of color. So, I think it's important for all these different businesses to address the diversity and to address the different cultures and make sure that their employees are happy, because one bad employee interaction with a customer can destroy your business. We know word of mouth and social media can definitely do a lot of damage and undo all the hundreds of thousands of dollars you're spending on advertising.
Definitely. So what is the best advice you have for young people? Maybe they're getting their first job, maybe they're 15, 16. What would the best advice be for them to start off?
Well, just try to go in with a positive attitude, because you never know who you might meet that can potentially connect you to another job. I think, thinking that you're entitled to have, the top job with the top money and top benefits is really a bad attitude. And I think we need to change our, the young generation's expectations. Not everyone's going to be a rap star. Not everyone's going to be an influencer. Not everyone's going to be making millions of dollars. So we need to really change their expectations and tell them that hard work never replaces any kind of success story. Even the people that are successful. I was listening to Tyler Perry this morning on a morning show, and all the hard work he's done to get where he's been at. And of course, he's very uplifting. He's always trying to promote new talent. And I think that's important, from an employer standpoint too, is to encourage employees to be the best they can. And if it means that they're going to move on to another job, that's great. But in the meantime, try to make the best of your situation and try to work as well as you can with your teammates and not try to take credit for everything.
Right. Well, unfortunately, time is running out today. I feel like it always goes by so fast when we're talking, but I just want to thank you so much, Suzanne, for your time today. As always, it's great to have you. I hope you have a wonderful day.
You too, and thank you for the opportunity affording our chamber to get our word out about how to help businesses.
Of course. Thank you. One thing we've always been taught to say as children when we do something we know is wrong is "I'm sorry." However, how much is too much when it comes to that phrase? And how do we know when there is meaning behind it? Today, Stacy Zadkovich joins us to talk about the overutilization of the phrase "I'm sorry." Thank you again for joining us, Stacy.
We'll be right back with The Splash Live. And now, back to The Splash Live.
Welcome back to The Splash Live. We are joined today by Stacy Zadkovich. She is going to talk to us a little bit about the overutilization of the phrase "I'm sorry." Welcome to the show, Stacy.
Hi, thank you so much. Great to be here.
So, looking at the phrase "I'm sorry," how many different perspectives do you think can be taken out of that phrase?
Well, I think there's quite a few. You know, if you are at the grocery store and the cashier breaks an egg or does something, you say, "Oh, I'm sorry." And then if the waiter at a restaurant brings you something different than what you ordered, you're like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Or if something happens, like, we're always apologizing. And so no matter what the case is, there's definitely an overutilization of saying that word. And a lot of times now it goes in one ear and out the other. It's kind of like, "Hi, good morning, how are you?" And you expect that, "Good, how are you?" It's like that standard, greeting. And it's like, what meaning does it have? If that makes sense.
Definitely. So, how can you tell if someone is being sincere or if they're just saying it to get out of a bad place?
That's really hard to indicate because you never know someone true intentions of what they really mean as to just words. But there are some things of why we do it. And a lot of times why people say "I'm sorry" way too many times. And, a lot of it is I'm late. And you say, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." And there's, again, that stimulation to make themselves feel better. And we say that a lot because we're people pleasers. We have low self-esteem. We are perfectionists. And when that interferes with something that we feel that we're doing wrong, we say "I'm sorry."
Right. So, being young is always such a strange time for us, and the kids today are definitely growing up a little bit differently than we did. What do you think the most important thing for them to hear about saying positive and being kind to their peers and their elders is?
I think if you were to say "I'm sorry" and then say why, it has a greater impact. It has more meaning. And if you sit there and you go out and you observe everyone around you, just observe how many people truly say "I'm sorry." And then why don't you try and say "I'm sorry" and then say why? "I'm really sorry for being late to this meeting. Thank you very much for your patience and understanding." And then move on. So you said why, and people are like, "Okay, all right." And then say it with more meaning. Think about how many times you say it. And also when you keep saying I'm sorry," you give your power. You look a lot more insecure. And I'm not saying that people don't say it because they don't mean it, but I just want to make sure that people use it in the right context and say it to give more meaning. So just be more conscious of saying it and feel it and give that why so it has a more purpose, and see what people's reactions are. And it makes you feel better and it makes them feel better and it gives more of a reason, and then let it go.
I feel like that is the biggest thing, is just to let it go, kind of move on. I feel like a lot of people just bottle that up and hold it against other people. So
They do.
unfortunately, time really does fly when you're having fun, and we only have a minute left of
It
the
does.
show. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we go today?
I just think that when you are going throughout your day and something happens, I want for you to think about saying I'm sorry before you just offer it up to someone. And it kind of goes with the same thing with thank yous. Some people just say, "Oh, thank you." And there's no meaning. "Thank you for helping me with my groceries," or "Thank you for opening the door." And it kind of goes with I'm sorry, thank yous, and just think about your words and what you truly are trying to get across to people, because it really does define who you are and what you want to represent. And if you want to show the insecurity, the lack of confidence, then you just keep saying that. But, say the I'm sorry or thank you, and then give the reason why. And it will make a huge difference for not only you, but again, everyone around you. So hopefully that's a good tip for everybody today and gives you something to think about.
Definitely. Thank you so much for joining us again, Stacey. It's always such a pleasure, and I really do think we learned some valuable stuff today. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you, and have a fabulous rest of your day. And thank you for always having great interviews and having me on your Splash.
We always love having you. Thank you so much to all of our viewers for hanging out with us on the Splash Live. I'm Ursula Krause. That's it for today's show. We hope to see you this weekend at the game, and we'll see you tomorrow here on the Splash Live.
Now that the vaccine is available for children 5 and up, why do you recommend it?
Kids are part of the community and they can spread COVID.
We're seeing both